attempt to go live on Instagram.
Okay.
Let's see. I think it told me to go live now.
Can you share it when it's done, or are you just gonna like people can't access it later?
Oh, we're live on Instagram.
Are we?
Bro, this is a revolution. This is a next gen Instagram that we're now streaming on all platforms.
Wait, can I share it?
Yeah, go on Superpower Mentor's Instagram.
Wait, this is cool. Okay. I did not know that. Let's try it.
All right, while everyone hops in here, we're gonna hang out for a bit.
I'm cool with that. Let me see if I can share this. Oh, I see. Oh, I see.
And I'm gonna share this. Scotty!
There you go.
All right, let's see.
We'll do this. Oh, I gotcha. Okay, this is sick.
While everyone's tuning in, just gonna try to share this on our platforms real quick.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you know what?
All right, let's see. Okay.
I'm sharing it now too. Here we go. Superpower Mentors. What a cool name. I don't know. You just got the right name, man.
You know what? There's so much to that, right?
Yep.
Superpower Mentors is it's in the name. It's in the name. Welcome. All right, so it's 8 o'clock, which means that we're gonna get ourselves started over here.
Yes.
So here's how it's gonna roll. If you're just tuning in, please comment where you are watching from. There is nothing better than community. This is going to really be an awesome evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jake Sussman. I'm the founder and president of Superpower Mentors. We are the world's first online neurodiverse mentorship platform, matching kids and teens with ADHD, dyslexia, and autism to their own mentor anywhere in the world. Now, I've been hopping on live, interviewing some really cool people. And tonight, though, I have someone really special. We got Tyler Falcoa, who is we go way back in college.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah.
Tyler is actually one of our mentors at Superpower Mentors, but he has such a cool story. He's a professional music artist. Has some songs that have gotten streams well into the millions, which is pretty unbelievable. And tonight we're going to hear a little bit about Tyler's story, growing up with a learning difference, what it was like for him, and how he used music to unlock his superpower. So Tyler, welcome.
Thank you, Jake. This is great. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome.
It's honestly, you know what? The one thing that I try to bring with me, no matter where I go, is music in any capacity. It could be in conversation, it could be listening to music, talking about it in different ways. But when I was a kid, I didn't really think about it. I kind of just gravitated towards music. I was always kind of like a happy kid who didn't really think too much. Always outside playing, having a good time. And as I started to get a little bit older, things started happening in my life that kind of changed the trajectory of my life. And I was big into sports, played football for a long time. And at the age of 10, I got hurt pretty bad. I was out for the season. And so my dad brought home a guitar for me to play guitar on the sidelines, basically. Not literally, but, being at home. And that changed everything for me because mentally I had really, really gone through it. I was diagnosed with OCD at that point, depression. And so that guitar was kind of like my therapy in a way. After that, being in school, it was really hard to be in school. One, with anxiety, and two, my focus was just not there. And that's the ADHD part of me that ended up really presenting itself to the forefront of my life. And I struggled with that all through pretty much middle school, high school, and college. But we ended up having a house fire shortly after I got diagnosed with OCD. And so that put me back even further. I was having a really hard time dealing with both those traumas, between football and the house fire. Started going to therapy very frequently, and it kind of just like stayed there as I went along. And in college, I had a nervous breakdown, and that kind of like flooded everything back to the forefront of my life with anxiety, depression, OCD, ADHD, all of it. I just could not function. And that's when I actually dove even deeper into music. So deeper into music production, writing. That was my therapy, on top of going to, cognitive behavioral therapy 3 times a week. So that, college, music, that was like my triangle of life at that point. And fast forward a few years, I graduated, was super, super happy about that. And I started writing for brands. So I did some commercial work for TikTok music, for Amazon, Disney, wow, NYX Cosmetics. That was cool. And so I started building my production company, writing for other artists, other brands after college, more and more. And after that, I started just really getting involved in the business side of music, the business side of other things that I'm interested in, like podcasting, like I get involved here in my local town on the business side of things. And I found that the things that I grew up with, like OCD, depression, ADHD, that I thought were my weaknesses, they actually in turn ended up being solid strengths for me, as hard as they were to deal with and to accept and move with. They ended up being the very things that actually were behind a lot of the motivation that I ended up getting to do all of this.
Wow. First of all, your story is incredible.
Thank you.
And for our parents, our audience watching, please give Tyler a little love, give him a little shout out. That'd be awesome. There's to come on here and share vulnerably about your experience. It takes a lot of strength. So Tyler, you were mentioning that, you were a football player, you were an athlete, right? And I know for our, there's a lot of kids who are athletes, but what happened? So that was your outlet.
Yes.
Was there a period of time where you lost that outlet? So your dad gave you this guitar. Did you just pick it up right away? Or, how did you find that versus just going on video games, for example, which I'm sure maybe you did, but like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. I was playing Madden for a long time, but no, sports were my outlet. I mean, I was playing soccer, basketball, football all through my childhood. And once I got hurt, so what ended up happening was my bicep got severed. Getting 115 stitches, all from a helmet clip. Yeah. So the helmet clip was metal. We ended up changing the law for peewees because you couldn't use metal clips after that because they were sharp. It was wild, but that ended up becoming something. I think I played football one more year after that happened. After that, I came back the season later. But being home and dealing with the anxiety, so that was very traumatic for me. And so I didn't know anything about dealing with trauma. I didn't know anything about dealing with anxiety and thoughts and fears and things of that nature. So being in therapy helped with that. But my dad, just being the guy he is, he's a huge music fan in general. And so he brought a guitar home, he put it in the corner and was like, he basically told my mom, if he picks it up, he picks it up. If he doesn't, that's fine. It looks nice. And nobody in my family played music at the time. So obviously, like being a kid, and my brother was 2 years younger than me, we just gravitated towards the guitar. And my brother gravitated towards drums. And so, he just banged on things and pots and pans and stuff, the classic drummer upbringing. But I just gravitated towards it because I just liked it. I liked holding the guitar. I liked hearing the different sounds it made and, if I moved my finger here and tried this hand, like it was just like really cool because it was all new. It was just all brand new to me. Where video games at that point, they're just there, but I've always kind of played video games, so it wasn't like, oh, this is exciting. It's just something I did. So music became the outlet for me because one, I think it was new, and two, because it was during a tough time in my life. It seems like when we have tough times in our lives, we gravitate towards certain things, and those things have more importance because you almost feel like they help you through it, you know?
Yeah.
So that was my experience with that.
Wow. Yeah. There's for a lot of our kids and for, again, our parents watching, if you have any stories of your kids having something similar, please go ahead and share. Look, to have an outlet that you had with music people need to have outlets, right? We talk about the importance of outlets, and as a mentor, and I would love for you to talk a little bit about why you came back and wanted to go back into the trenches to mentor. But why is it important that kids have outlets? And like, what does that mean? And like for kids with ADHD or OCD to have those types of outlets?
So coming from experience, outlets are so important. As the younger they are, the more important it becomes because they're so impressionable. And so when someone with learning disabilities like ADHD, dyslexia, even anxiety and OCD, depression, like these are kids who have brains that work very differently. We are creative beings. Our brains are almost in like hyper mode, right? So our brains require more stimulation. They require more of the outside world to take up some space. And so when you're young and you're impressionable and your brain is so open to whatever's going on out here, you want to make sure that you're feeding that brain with positive influence. You want to make sure you're feeding that brain with positive energy. So from my perspective, and of course, working with the kids that I work with, it's so important to get something that's one, productive to gravitate towards, and also to spend their time with, because it's so easy to spend time on negative things. It's so easy to spend time on things that don't actually do anything for you. Although we all need time to play video games. We all need time to do things that don't have any, value besides just their fun. Right. That's, I think outlets are the most important thing to get involved in as a young kid, and specifically for the reason that your brain is open so much that you need to feed it with positive things.
Yeah. And that's something that, again, like, I mean, even with my story too, it's like you gotta have that thing. And for a lot of these kids, they struggle having that thing. Video games is the easy way. That's easy. It's quick dopamine. It makes you feel good. And that's what's available now. But to be able to have this, and parents, show this interview to your kids, please. I highly recommend it. Look, we're in our 20s. Like, we're cool. We're young. At least I think I am. Tyler's much cooler than me.
You're but wait, like, what's your outlet though? You never said what your outlet was.
Okay. Well, when I was in 6th grade, that was my low point. Okay. 4 grade levels behind in reading, forced to read out loud in class. It was terrible. It was awful. Right. So I had my model train set. I love trains. And my parents ended up building a table in my basement, and they were like, you do the rest. Wow. And it was like having a blank canvas, right? I can do whatever I wanted. Just like when you are making music, you're like in your own world, right? Yep. For me, that was my outlet. And from there, I kind of, that helped build some of that foundational confidence. But I had different ones. I had, I like to run, and I play the piano actually. So,
you do. I've seen a few clips of you playing, and you're absolutely phenomenal. So you should share more of those videos, because I'm sure people would be like, "What?"
Yeah, maybe that's a good point. I will. But the thing, I believe, and I would love to hear some of your thoughts on this, but kids deserve, and they have the abilities to do great things, right? Sometimes it's really scary to take that leap. So what do you have to say to a parent who's struggling with their kid who's on video games all day to take that leap of faith and dive into something new?
I am a firm believer in leading by example, and I know that's sometimes the harder route to go. But I say this because my dad was that example. He was the guy who put the guitar in the corner, and sometimes he would sit next to it and just kind of, he never ever was like, don't do this, or stop playing that game and go play the guitar. It was more just like, it's so much easier to be influenced by something when you're not forced into it. So I think leading by example of, hey, like, dad's going to pick up the guitar and just see what this does, and just really leading into curiosity, because I think it's less scary for a kid when there's curiosity and mom and dad are showing curiosity, rather than just, hey, do this, or you should stop doing that. The brain automatically takes up a different signal when you're told to stop.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
How did your dad know to give you a guitar, put the guitar down? Like where did that come from?
I honestly think it came from his love of music. He's got like a record collection that will take up this entire room that I'm in right now. And he was heavily influenced by music growing up in the 70s and 80s. So I think knowing that he was so obsessed with music from a listener's perspective, and he had the insight to be like, hey, I don't know anything about music, but maybe my kids might get into it, right? So he figured, you know what, there's no harm in him playing guitar. He's not going to go and hurt himself. He's home in the safety of our home. Let's just put a guitar there and see what happens, And I know from my perspective, if I was to have kids, I feel like I would do as much as I can to show the kid what I love, to see if the kid responds, never to force it upon them. But when you love something, the first thing you want to do is share it with someone. Right. So it's never to be forced, but I think just the pure curiosity to share and just be like, I wonder if he would like something like this because I love it,
Right. Wow. That's so great. And I think that's such a great lesson too for parents to look beyond what they see, right? It's very easy to see your kids struggle and be in pain, right? And there's that quick reaction to want to make that pain go away. So what do? Right. You talk to end up like a bunch of different professionals. Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not what we need.
Right.
Sometimes we just need something that we can feel expressed. And that's what your dad had. Okay. So now we got the guitar, like you're playing it, you're feeling good. At what point was this switch of like, hold on, time out, I think I have a gift, right? Yeah. When was that? And take us through that for a minute. And was it something that you discovered on your own, or did someone put that in your head and you were like, oh, maybe I have something? Yeah.
I never saw it as a gift. I saw it as, this is just, I really love this. And so what do you do when you really love something? I mean, you're on it. You're just on it. And at least for kids like us, with ADHD, my hyper focus ability at that age was beyond anything that I would ever be able to consciously be aware of at that age as well. So I'd say 7th grade, I wasn't really a social kid at that point. So I would come home. I'd get home by like 3 o'clock, maybe 3:15. I would go right upstairs and I would start recording because I was absolutely obsessed with recording audio. And I would just record. I would maybe take a break or two to try to get some homework done because that was on my to-do list. And I would be recording until 10 o'clock at night. And so that 7-hour period of recording, a little bit of homework, back to recording, that's all I did for 7th and 8th grade. I was so obsessed, and I never deterred from that. So I think looking back, I can now acknowledge that was my hyper focus and like hyperdrive, because I was so focused and like time just completely went away when I would do that.
So can I just quickly pause because
Yeah.
I want to make sure for if anyone watching this has ADHD, give a little shout out because I think it's important to recognize like what is hyperfocus. A lot of people may not know, especially for parents that are just learning about ADHD. So
Yeah.
what does hyperfocus mean to you?
Hyperfocusing is basically the exact opposite of not being able to focus. People think ADHD just comes with, oh, they can't stay focused or they can't, they can't stay in tune with what they're
Right.
doing. And hyperfocusing is the opposite side of that, because it's actually a tool and a skill that most of us have, where we get so tuned in to what we're doing because we're, one, interested in it, and two, our brain, our activity is just like, it's just firing like crazy, and we're like in the moment. It's like basically the closest thing that you can get to I call it being present, because that is being present for me, is just when I'm so hyper focused, nothing can take me out of that. And that is the only thing that matters in this moment.
How interesting that the stereotype with ADHD is not being able to focus.
Right. Right.
But yet you can focus better than most people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is it? Is it a focusing problem?
No, it's because the brain, the people with ADHD, their brains require a different sort of stimulation. Their brains require more stimulation on a different level. And so that's why most kids who have ADHD, they end up finding the things they really love, and they're usually told to stop doing it because they need to, go back into school, go this, which is important, but it's also about cultivating a place where they can feel the ways to express that, because those are tools that end up developing over time, and they can be really true superpowers when they get older.
Right. And also to mention that to observe, and for our parents watching, something to keep in mind, what your kids are doing, they're doing for a reason. And I'm not just talking about video games. I want to know, what video game are they playing? Is it Minecraft? Is it Fortnite? Is it Roblox? Like, what is it? Because whatever they're playing, again, there's a reason why that they're playing it. So as leaders and mentors and role models, we have to look at more than just what we see and ask ourselves, why are they doing it?
Yep. It's true.
Okay, so Ty, tell me, so now you were going through school, you realize that you have this gift, and I mean, you're a successful music artist. So how much of your success do you contribute to your OCD, ADHD, and like, what's some advice that you can share with families of kids that are struggling, even embracing it?
I always toe the line with, I look at everything with gratitude, and I am grateful for the way my brain works, but I also always recognize how hard it is and how scary it is for most people to go through it. Right. So I am really, really adamant about saying, probably if my brain did not work this way, I would not have been able to do the things that I do, for sure. Because the things that I do require, I think, to be successful in anything, it requires you to, one, be consistent. You need to have the habits. You need to also continue to do what you do. And it takes time. So if I was not a perfectionist, if I was not super focused, if I was not implementing consistent habits, there's no way that I would have been able to do what I do. So, and I attribute that to my ADHD and my OCD 100%. But I also attribute the other side of that, which is patience and understanding and empathy and compassion for self, also comes out of dealing with OCD and ADHD, and also being around other people who deal with that as well. Because if you don't have that side of it, then you may not be able to, one, acquire the right people around you, because you may not be able to connect with people on that level. And two, you may not have the patience to deal with yourself, to be able to go through these hurdles and give yourself the time and the compassion and the understanding that it takes to be successful in something, because you're going to fail. You're going to hit roadblocks. You're going to hit times where you're scared of yourself, or you're scared of the world around you. Right. And that comes with any sort of mental side of living. So I attribute both sides, the compassionate side of myself and the hardworking side, to the way my brain works, and also to I contribute a lot of my success to the people around me, because if I didn't have a good support system, I would have not been able to continue to do what I did, because I had parents who supported me, and they still do. I have great friends and family and the people in my community who lift me up when I'm feeling like I can't, move another step. So I think a lot of it's community, and a lot of it is looking at what you have and how you can make it into something that works for you.
So I'm hearing a lot on this community piece, right?
Yeah.
It's having a support system.
Yeah. Yep.
It's having a support system. Okay, awesome. And again, for those watching, if you have questions for Tyler, this is your chance to ask. Most likely someone else has the same question. So please go ahead, ask whatever comes to mind about Tyler and his story. He's here. We're here to assist. If you're struggling with your kids not motivated, or that sounds great, guys, but my kid doesn't have any outlets. This is ask those questions. We're ready for them. We'll take them live, right?
Yeah.
We're primed.
Always.
So Tyler, tell me about, so you're a superpower mentor. Why do you want to be a mentor? And tell me a little about your experience mentoring.
I wanted to be a mentor, one, because I felt like this program would have been extremely helpful for me as a young kid. And I really do believe in being able to give back to, one, not only others, but the younger generation coming up, because they're the people we're going to be working with. They're the people that we're going to be in the community with. So we have to make sure that they're getting guidance and support coming up. So, one, seeing what you've been doing since graduation, I mean, it's been pretty crazy to see that, and seeing how much Superpowers has grown has been just crazy. So I'm somebody who likes to get involved, and so seeing how much there is out there today in conversation with mental health, and seeing how many resources there are out there, but also not necessarily in the school. I think it's our job to step up and get our hands in the dirt, and to really give these kids resources and tools that we learned along the way as they're on the come up. So I'd say the biggest thing is to help the kids have tools and real life experience from my brain that I didn't have growing up, to really just like pass that on.
What is it like to talk to the younger version of yourself?
That's a really good question. Talking to the younger version of myself, I do it every week. Every session I step into with these kids, I do it every single time. And it's kind of funny, because I never started doing practices where you close your eyes and you imagine literally talking to your younger self in meditation. But ever since I took on meditation, that was a huge practice. And it's a very different feeling when you're talking to someone else who you actually see yourself in. You actually see parts of you in this kid's personality and in their ways of thinking. And that actually does so much more healing for me personally than closing my eyes and imagining that I'm talking to 10-year-old Tyler. Because here's somebody in the flesh talking to me about something they're experiencing that I've experienced and that I've gone through. And like for real, this is a real chance for me to say, hey, this is what happened. This is how I got through it. This is a chance for them to actually use it. Whereas I don't actually get to go and tell 10-year-old Tyler to do this and change it. It's not like Back to the Future, where this is kind of like a Back to the Future scenario where you can sit there and be like, hey, this is what I would have done if I was in your shoes, and this is how it panned out for me all these years later. You have the chance to do that.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's healing. It's cathartic.
Yeah. It's so funny. We get a lot of calls from mentors like freaking out that they're having like a deja vu, like every
Yeah.
session. Like, oh my God, like I'm talking to myself. This is wild.
Yeah.
Do
It's
you have
true.
any like good without like, do you have any good like cool stories to tell from your experience?
Cool stories. Yeah. So in 2016, I got to open up for One Republic and Shaggy up in Boston with my brother.
No way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Um,
I
and
didn't
it
even know
was,
that. Whoa.
yeah, it was easily the scariest
Oh my
time
God.
up until that point in my life. So this was at the Hatch Cell in Boston, and it was probably anywhere between 30 and 40,000 people just on a lawn. And I did not know we were going to do this until probably a week prior, because it was through connections that we had made, and we went through a contest and it worked out. And they were like, "Yeah, you guys are going to open up for them." And I was like, "Oh my God, so cool." And I woke up that morning and I was a mess. I was out on the lawn in my parents' backyard, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna blow chunks. I can't do this. Like this is crazy. So my anxiety and my OCD was like up here at that point. And my parents surprised us and got us a limo, and also got our whole family to take the limo to Boston to do the show, because it was like
No
once in a
way.
lifetime.
Yeah.
So I remember just being in the limo and on our way to the shell, and we get there and we empty out, and me and Ryan go backstage, and my parents and everybody go out there, and I remember sitting backstage thinking to myself, like, you're getting all in your head right now about something that hasn't happened yet. It's about to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And instead of really just enjoying it and letting it just be what it is, you're trying to take so much control about doing
Oh,
well. And that moment like clicked for me. So we were just about to go on stage, and Shaggy was next to us, and he was like wishing us luck and everything. And it just like went away. Like everything just went away. And that was one of those instances where you're just like, okay, this is really what it means to be present. And as soon as I stepped on the stage, it was probably one of the best performances my brother and I had done. And I was probably the most nervous I had ever been. And I think channeling that energy and like really talking myself through it, that was the first time I was able to actually talk myself through to something that completely dissipated all my anxiety in an instant. And I truly believe that is a tool that I use to this day, but it's only when I'm like at that breaking point of like, oh my God, what is happening? So I think that was one of the first moments that I was really, really present doing what I was doing. And it's probably one of the coolest days I've had in my life this far.
oh my gosh. Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so much about that,
Yeah.
right? And so many people, we try to control the outcome of everything, especially having ADHD, right?
Yeah.
We love control. So if we can't control the outcome, we
Yep.
fall, we
Yeah.
freeze.
Yep.
So you just like went through it. And that point, that moment is such a valuable lesson to kids. And again, parents, show this interview to your kids. Go grab them right now. I don't care what they're doing. This is a big moment, right?
Yeah.
Because so many times in school or just in life, we're going to be faced with that uncontrolled moment, but it could be a defining moment, right? A lot of times, like we've asked people, like, so how many times in your life have you actually like not done something because you were afraid? And it's a lot.
Yes.
Can you imagine if people actually did the thing that they were afraid to do, how much better their life would be?
Yes. That is called trusting yourself. I just talked about
And
that.
it's so scary.
It is. But how do you trust yourself? You have to build trust with yourself. How do you build it? You don't start by going on stage in front of 50,000 people. You start by setting your alarm a half hour earlier and actually getting up. You're not pressing. So you trust yourself by doing the little things first and showing yourself that you can do the little things first. Right?
That is huge.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
you know, and I didn't realize
Baby
that until I
steps.
got older, you know?
Baby steps, the things that we wish we knew, if only, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so cool to be able to have an opportunity. And for parents, if you're watching this, if you want to work with Tyler, let us know. Reach out to us, Superpower Mentors. I mean, like, this is why we're here, because the stories we're saying, right? These not just our stories. So many other kids go through these stories of feeling like they can't control it, or they're questioning themselves, or they're comparing themselves to their peers, right? But in reality, like, you just got to trust in yourself. And that's not going to happen through talking to yourself, right?
Right.
You got to actually take that scary step forward. And that is horrifying.
Right. It's
You risk
debilitating.
failure.
It's debilitating, especially for kids who have OCD, ADHD. It's the black and white thinking of this could either be the best thing for me or this could ruin my life. And most of the time, it's neither. It's just another scenario for many people, right? So it's so funny we're talking about that. I just did that in the podcast. It's crazy.
Yeah. Let's talk about the podcast for a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
You got this cool shirt. Okay. Please excuse my OCD. Tell us about this podcast. I mean, the word on the street is that it's amazing. So tell us about this podcast that you started.
It's something. I'll tell you that. It's my first podcast, and it's please excuse my OCD is kind of like a play on words, because I think so many of us have such a hard time letting ourselves be heard. We kind of want to quiet ourselves down. We don't want them to know we have ADHD or dyslexia or ADHD or OCD. And what ends up happening is it becomes louder in our head. And so I find that if you just let it be what it is, you can be loud. You can let the people you love know. You can let it out in some way, shape, or form, because it becomes less scary when you start treating it like that. So be loud. It is a loud podcast. It may not be family friendly. There are certain topics in this podcast that so you're going to have to decipher through certain episodes which ones you can let your kid listen to. But this is a podcast that is shedding light on OCD in a very real way from somebody who's had it all of his life. And I feel that there's such a misunderstanding with OCD. As you know, there's such a misunderstanding with ADHD as well, and dyslexia, that if more people understood it and more people talked about it, there would be so much more compassion in school. There would be so much more empathy between peers. There would be so much more help for people who are going through it. And it's also to not be as afraid as we anticipate. You know, like for me, the more serious I am on things, the scarier it is. So I try to take a scary situation and I try to poke fun wherever I can find a way to do it. And that's basically what I'm doing on this podcast. And we've had some crazy submissions of, you know, people saying, can you do an episode on how to talk to your child who has OCD tendencies? And how should you talk to your partner who's OCD and I don't have it? So I'm learning a lot about what people need help in terms of understanding when it comes to these kind of things. And so I just let episode 2 out of the bag on Monday. Next Monday is episode 3. And we're going to be going deep into how to help others who have OCD, because so many people, 1, don't know they have it, and 2, they have no idea what to do when someone they love has it. So that's where my heart's at. And I'm loving it. I'm loving every second. Wow.
Have you always been comfortable talking about these topics, or is this new?
Yeah. I don't know why. I just remember being a very scared child in terms of the world around me. And I knew that I had to talk about it because I felt safe. I asked my parents if I could get a therapist at the age of 10. And they were like, sure. You know, we don't know what this is. We don't know how to help you. So let's bring you to somebody who does. And I've been going to therapy ever since literally since I was 10 years old. And so it's just, I feel better when I talk about it.
I think I want to know publicly, like, you know, you're doing the mentorship, you're doing this podcast. I mean, you're putting yourself out there. Is this new, or is that really something that you've embraced since you were younger?
No, this is definitely something I've embraced, and I've done it with Tyler and Ryan, with my brother, when we had the duo on YouTube. Like I was very open about my mental health.
So as a man,
Yeah.
I want to have the man talk.
Sure.
And for
Yep.
parents, if you got boys, this is a good one. Get them from their whatever they're doing, right? This is an important. We're gonna have a man-to-man talk right now, right?
Yeah.
Because as a man, you and I
Mhm.
both know that
Mhm.
it's not cool to talk about your feelings,
Right. Right. Or
right?
so they say.
Or so they say, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So can we just like touch on that for a sec?
Yeah.
Like, why is
Absolutely.
it important that as men, like it's actually cool to talk about your feelings? It's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's 1000% okay. It's actually recommended. And I think we are living in a world that is becoming more accepting about that.
Yeah.
Although it
I
still
agree.
needs to change in a lot of men's heads as well. But I think there's this facade that a lot of, you know, a lot of pop culture and of course, past generations have brought to the table where men don't cry and men don't do this and men don't do that. And if anything, when we really try to suppress that, you become angry, you become more bitter, you become very shut off from the world, never mind yourself, from the world. And I think, you know, coming at it from an angle where if you're afraid of looking a certain way, if you're afraid if somebody's going to judge you for because you're talking about your feelings or you feel a certain way, maybe they're just not worth having in your life right now. Maybe they need to go through their own kind of growth till they get to a place where they can talk about their
So you
feelings.
mean that we can change our friends?
Absolutely. I think it's important to keep a check of who's in your friend group because you become who you hang out with. And sometimes people don't always form into the people you want to be around. So I agree with that. Most of my friends, uh, actually, I have a very close, small circle of friends that I you and I when we're done talking to each other, dude, I love you. You know what I
Dude,
mean?
love
Like
you, bro.
I
Yeah.
love you, bro. Like that. Like I every time I get off the phone with my friends, my guy friends, I'm like, love you, dude. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Like that's something my dad would be like, hey, you guys say love you a lot. I'm like, yeah. He's like, we never really did that when I was your age. I was like, well, you should hop on, And my dad always said love. My parents also like fostered that too. Like my dad always said, I love you to me.
My family also. And I think that there's
Yeah.
something to say about that too.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why I'm also very open is because my parents fostered that. They were like, you can tell me anything. There was, we're not perfect. We have our discussions, disagreements, and our quarrels, but my parents never didn't show me love. It was always, I love you. Every single text, call, in person, hug, kiss. Like that's just how it was for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to quickly put something out to the parents and then I'll follow up with another question for you. And obviously, if you got something to say too, we'll just kind of get into it. But parents, I'm going to keep saying this for anyone that's new, that's hopping in here. This is an amazing opportunity to ask a question. I'll give you the scenario, right? If you were to look into the future of your kid, what would you want to know? What would you want to ask? Whatever that question is, you can ask that because that's really where Tyler and I both are from. Okay. So put it out there now while they all think Tyler.
Yeah.
So as a mentor, right, you're a leader,
Yes.
And there's young kids out there, teenagers that are still trying to like figure out that thing. How do you talk about OCD? Like, how does someone talk about that, especially as a guy, but also let's open it up, right? As a girl too, right? But like, how do you talk about it?
I think the number one thing that opens the door to talking about it is having a safe person, having someone in your life that you feel safe to tell anything and everything to.
Yeah.
Most people don't talk about OCD because the thoughts they're having are so terrifying. They feel like if I say this to somebody, they're going to either never talk to me again or they're going to call the nut house and have me packed up. So finding someone that you can trust and they won't judge you and they'll love you unconditionally, that's the first step, is finding a safe place. And then once you have a safe place and a safe person to talk to, I think I'm trying to take myself out of it, because for me, I just would blurt out what I thought. I was like, this is terrifying to me. What is this? If you're somebody who's scared to talk about it, I would say maybe dip your toe in the water first and see how it feels. And what I mean by that is not saying right off the bat the things that are bothering you, or saying right off the bat, what you're struggling with, but finding something that is a middle ground. Say, have you ever had, if you're struggling with like really intrusive thoughts on an OCD plane, talking to somebody and being like, have you ever questioned your relationships? Because there's a thing called relationship OCD, where a partner thinks they may not. Do I really love my person? They have excessive doubt. It's a really real thing for people with OCD. They have excessive doubt about everything, including their relationships. And maybe sitting down with a partner or even like, sitting down with someone that you trust and saying, have you ever had like just thoughts that bothered you about your relationship? You don't even have to come out and just be like, have you ever think about like leaving your partner because you're not sure if you love them? That's hard to hear.
That's intense. That's an intense,
but it's just coming to the table and saying, have you ever had have you ever been nervous about, your relationship? Have you ever been scared that you're making the right choices? I think a lot of it's framing a more general view to kind of see how they feel about it. If you're a kid and you're going to mom and you're saying, Mom, I keep having these thoughts about getting sick. I'm so scared to get sick. And you're afraid of being judged or whatever. Just be like, Mom, have you ever had, just thoughts that scared you? Opening up the playing field from a general point of view.
And that for parents is so important. We talk about this all the time at Superpower Mentors. It's okay to get vulnerable with your kid.
Yep.
Because let's face it, we're all adults here, I think, right? I'm a kid at heart, right? We're all adults here, that we've all gone through it, right? Yeah. We've all gone through stuff. And if your kid's going through stuff, relate to them on that. It's okay to say that, you know what? I also struggled too, right? I get it. And that allows that common ground and an opportunity to bond. People often forget that vulnerability is the birthplace to conversation, right? People think that it's bad to be vulnerable, but actually it's a sign of love. It's a sign of compassion. It makes people feel heard and seen and not alone. So as a parent, you don't have to be the perfect one. And that's okay.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And I think with conversation too, is you don't have to have the answers. Most people think as a parent, I know with my own experiences with my parents, they would try to come up with the answer. And half the time I just needed to say what I needed to say so that they could hear and at least try to understand what I was feeling and thinking. I didn't know the answer. I didn't necessarily need the answer. I just need to be heard.
Right.
You don't need to know the answers. You don't need to, because most of us don't. But I think there's something that changes in the brain when somebody is given the floor and they're understood, or at least heard.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of research around mentorship, and it doesn't have to be with that. It's in general.
Yeah.
Get a mentor. Find a mentor. And what I mean by that, it's not just some person like a business mentor to look up to, which, by the way, business mentors are great. This is someone that is a personal mentor, someone that has also OCD, someone that has gone through similar adversity, because that person will speak a language probably better than most professionals out there. right? And if you can talk to that person and bond through it, and again, I want to preface that when you're looking for a mentor, this isn't just, again, someone that's still going through it while we obviously go through our own circumstances, but the mentor makes sure that they have overcome some of those adversities that you're currently going through. Okay. Because if you find a mentor that is going through the same adversity now, currently, it could turn into a cycle of, you're just kind of feeding off each other's stereotypes versus actually looking at this person and say, wait a minute, if Tyler's been through this, I can do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you are, this goes back to leading by example, like we talked earlier. It's less about the force. It's more about showing, hey, this is what we do. This is how we did it.
Right. Okay. So please excuse my OCD. When do you release episodes? How can people find it?
Every Monday, please excuse my OCD. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Literally type in please excuse my OCD on anything and you'll probably find it.
I love that.
Thank you.
Now, Ty, before we hop off here, a few more things. First of all, what is your superpower?
My superpower is conversation.
Okay.
And what that includes is listening. I think that listening to people is my superpower because I literally just embody whatever it is that they're trying to.
Very good at that.
Yes. Thank you. I really truly believe that that's why I'm here is to listen and to help where I can. That's my superpower for sure, is listening.
Oh, it's great. You're awesome, dude. Like, this has been so much fun. Do you have anything you'd like to leave? Any words of wisdom, anything that you'd like to share with parents or kids watching this? Again, I think this is a really good opportunity for that.
Yeah. Just honestly, there's so many things that I would love to say, but I think if I was
I'm chilling.
I think if I was to kind of like put a stamp on it, I would say it's cliche, but don't let fear stop you from trusting yourself, because that's what stops you from trusting yourself is fear. And so the best way to overcome that is to do it anyway. Make the plan, commit to the thing that you're afraid to commit, or take on what you're afraid to take on, just to see how you do. And you may be very surprised when you look back and see that you did it and see that you accomplished what you set to accomplish. I don't care if it's setting your alarm a half hour earlier, going to the gym once or twice a week. When you look back on that and you say, I actually did it, then that's the first stepping stone to trusting yourself. And just never let fear stop you from trusting yourself.
Oh my gosh, dude. I'm in.
No, that's
wow.
I see it so much in my own life. And I'm so thankful for not letting fear stop me on so many different occasions. And I'm human. I still have my moments, but there's so many things that I wouldn't have right now if I listened to fear.
All right. Wow. That's really powerful. Excuse me. And again, families, if you are interested in working with Tyler, Tyler is a Superpower Mentor. Please reach out to us. I posted our website link on the chat. Just let us know that you watched this interview and that you'd like to work with Tyler. We can work something out. Again, first come, first serve. Tyler only has a limited amount of spots available, so only that time of the day. So just let us know. We'll be happy to arrange that. And listen, tomorrow I'm interviewing someone really cool. She is the founder of the Joseph James Morelli Foundation. And it is the largest scholarship foundation in the country for students that are dyslexic pursuing STEM majors. Okay. And we're going to be hearing about Barbara's story and just the amazing work that they're doing over there and that we're doing with them as well. But yeah, please come join us. If not, check out, please excuse my OCD, check out Superpower Mentors work with Tyler. And I'll see you all next time. Thanks for hopping
Thanks,
on.
Jay. See you, buddy.